In today's video, I'm going to be interviewing Ian Bauer. Now, maybe you've never heard of Ian, maybe you have. He is a guy who used to work a full-time job, actually about like 80 hours a week, and he was able to, by selling wholesale items on Amazon, move away from his 80-hour job and be able to make a full-time income just selling stuff on Amazon by creating wholesale accounts and selling that stuff on Amazon. And so he's been able to accomplish and averages about $40,000 a month in sales just selling wholesale stuff, and sometimes even has a six-figure month selling wholesale items on Amazon. So I'm going to break that down with him today. He's going to tell you how he was able to do it, how he was able to finally build up that momentum and make those numbers, and what it's done for his life. So this interview comes from our Full-Time FBA podcast. So if you want to see or hear more interviews, more information, be sure you subscribe to the Full-Time FBA podcast. fulltimefba.com/podcast is where you can find that. But let's get right into this interview. My interview with Ian Bauer and how wholesale has changed his life. All right, I'm here with Ian Bauer, and we are here talking about his wholesale journey and his success story about how he found wholesale and the success that he has experienced selling stuff on Amazon via wholesale. Ian, I'm really glad that you've taken some time out of your busy schedule to talk with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for chatting with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't you kind of tell us, the listeners, kind of how you got started with Amazon and maybe how you stumbled across wholesale?
Sure. So I've always wanted to be a business owner, and I've always thought that would manifest itself as me being a restaurant owner because I was a chef for a long time.
Cool.
And yeah, well, so there's an old joke about the restaurant business that the best way to make a small fortune in the restaurant business is to start with a large fortune. And the more I worked in the restaurant business, the more I realized that being a restaurant owner was absolutely not something that I wanted to do. And I was getting burnt out anyway on cooking and being in kitchens and working all the time and not seeing my family. So I started basically looking for, business models that could be, done on the internet and, kind of ramped up in my spare time, whatever little spare time I had. And this, Amazon was one of those things that came out of it, like how to use Amazon FBA. And it was it's a funny story because it wasn't my, the original intention. Like I came up with a couple different like business strategies, and I listened to all these different like podcasts, much like yours, and like I was going to be the one that came up with some kind of course, some kind of like knowledge product, right? And then my wife, I was like, hey, there's this like goofy thing called like retail arbitrage, where you like go out and you like buy stuff on discount and then sell it on Amazon. I'm like, that sounds like it's right up your alley. Why don't you go do that? You love to shop, right? So she was supposed to do the retail arbitrage, and that did pretty well. But like she has no desire whatsoever to run a business. And so what quickly happened was I found out how hard like course creation and marketing was for that. But this like goofy like FBA retail arbitrage thing seemed to be doing pretty good. So I kind of took over that and quickly hated it. And so that became online arbitrage, and I quickly hated that too because I don't like to shop, and it just wasn't scalable, and there was no there's no way to like grow that kind of a thing. And so I started looking at like, how can I like there's got to be people selling things on Amazon that isn't retail arbitrage. Like, like the whole thing can't be just people buying stuff from Walmart at a discount and selling on Amazon. So I heard a rumor about these guys. They were running this program called the Wholesale Formula. And so the rest is kind of history. I signed up for the Wholesale Formula, and within a couple months I had made my investment back on the program, which was awesome. And the rest was history. 2 years later, I quit my job, and I mean, I'm sure we could talk about all that, but that's how I got into it. That's how I found the Wholesale Formula. That's how I got started doing wholesale on Amazon. It was really just my efforts to become a business owner, to find a scalable, repeatable business model that worked and that enabled me to quit my job. So that's what I found.
Yeah, that's cool. What drew you to the Wholesale Formula? I mean, why did you think that was the answer to, help teach you how to be able to do this?
Well, so there's a few things about it, really, and I don't want to necessarily say that it was the fact that it was so kind of data driven, but that is kind of a nice thing about it. It's formulaic. I mean, it's the wholesale formula. So the formulaic nature of it, where it was like, I knew going into it that this was going to be the kind of thing, like, there were boxes to tick, there were things that you do, and if you follow that formula, it's going to produce a result. So I like that a lot. The other things I was doing seemed a lot like guessing and getting lucky, and this was much more, like, hey, this is a thing, this is what you're going to do. The other part of it too is that with retail arbitrage and online arbitrage, they're great, they're high profit, but when you stop working, they stop working. Unless I wanted to like go down this whole crazy route where I'm like hiring shoppers to go shopping for me. And I've seen people who do that. And that was just like, that was too much. But the other thing too was that with retail arbitrage and online arbitrage, you are not adding value in the supply chain. You're just moving product. You're taking advantage of market inequities, buying stuff from one place and selling it someplace else where they don't have it, and that's okay. And I'm never going to bash retail arbitrage or online arbitrage, but I knew that to be a sustainable, growable business, I needed to be able to provide some kind of value in that supply chain. And I felt like the wholesale formula was a way to provide that value. And that actually hammered home for me later on in the process too. Just how much value you need to add and how the wholesale formula helps you do that. So that was really what kind of like drew me to it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I love retail arbitrage and online arbitrage. I still do both of those strategies. But the thing that drew me to wholesale was, just the opportunity to find consistent items that I could replenish and, do some hard work up front to find the account, and then continually place orders once a month when my supply starts to run low. And I took the wholesale formula a couple years ago, and it revolutionized my Amazon business. And when you took the course and you started putting it into action and stuff, tell me what was it like to, like, your first wholesale order? What was that like? And was it a winner? Was it a dud? Because mine was a dud. I made a huge mistake with my first wholesale order. What was your experience like?
Yeah, mine was also a disaster. And, it's funny too, because I was in like the second class for the wholesale formula, the second time they offered it. Mm-hmm. And since then they've improved the course to where somebody going through it now couldn't make the same mistake I made when I started. And the mistake was so like when you get an account, a brand owner to say yes, it's like this exuberant feeling. You're like, yes, like I found this vein of gold that I could mine forever. This is wonderful, and so in my enthusiasm, I ignored some important warning signs, and the most important warning sign was that there were no FBA sellers on this thing. I was like, these chumps, I'm gonna mop up, And it turns out that the reason that there was no FBA sellers is because it was hazmat, and that was back in the day when hazmat was like nobody knew how to get into it. Like the only people had been selling for since 2010, and there was no path into that program at all. And so I bought a whole bunch of this stuff. It was like a compressed air product, and I couldn't sell any of it. And so I was really grateful. I had to go back to the brand owner with my tail between my legs. I'm like, I can't sell any of this.
Oh my gosh.
Could you take it back? And I'm glad they did. They took it back, but I learned an important lesson. And this is an important lesson all of your listeners can learn too, which is no matter what the product is, add it to your catalog before you buy it.
Yes.
And that will wash out all of those restrictions, and you'll find them all right then and there. So, that was my tragic first wholesale account.
Yeah, but the cool thing is, we all make mistakes. We learn from those mistakes, and things get better. Speaking of things getting better, what's been your experience with if you don't mind me asking, and if not, we can just cut this out. But what numbers wise have you been able to experience when it comes to sales over time? As you said you earned back your investment for the wholesale formula within 3 months of taking the course, and how things gone from there since then?
Yeah, so I mean, the wholesale formula has been like a real journey, and my sales every month, my best month has been probably about $100,000, and that's
monthly for the month, right?
Monthly, yeah. That's a month of revenue.
Yes, sorry, that's just a jaw dropping number. I just want to make sure I understood you correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, so my sales have hovered around $45,000 a month and up to $80,000, and my best month was 100,000. And lately, I honestly can't tell you because what the next stage of the journey here is to get into brand management, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something that isn't necessarily taught in the wholesale formula, but it's a
Right.
natural, organic progression from that because all of the things that you need to be a successful brand manager, you learn in the wholesale formula. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've actually begun converting my accounts that were wholesale, and I've begun moving over just the ones that make sense into brand management. And so my total managed revenue right now is about $2.5 million a year. Uh,
That's
so that's
amazing.
so that's
Yeah.
like my Seller Central account plus all the Seller Central accounts I manage. And so yeah, so that's an exciting thing. And you know, I'm sure like a natural question is like, well, brand management sounds great. Like, how do I do that? And the truthful answer is you have to learn how to be great at working with brand owners, understanding their pain points, providing value, doing all the things that you need to do to run a successful wholesale account.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need for brand management too. So now I have this hybrid model where when I talk to brand owners, I could do the best thing for them, and it's a conversation we have when they say, okay, well, this sounds great. This is all the things that we need you to do. Like, okay, so how do we go forward? And I say, okay, well, let's talk about what are your best options. Do you want to continue to sell to a retailer and then that retailer takes things over, or do you want to sell directly to your consumer? And we could do either of those things. In one scenario you pay me, and in another scenario I pay you. Which one of those do you want? And so
Yeah.
it's a cool tool to have in your toolbox.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said where it's like, you know, you first need to master the aspects of the wholesale formula and the things that they teach and get really comfortable with that before you can move on to the whole brand management aspect. And you also said you took the wholesale formula. Was it like 4 years ago when you took it about, or,
uh, it would have been 5 years ago this year, so I
okay.
think I was in the 2016 group.
Right. So this is not a quick, story where like you started the wholesale formula and then now you're bringing home millions of dollars, in sales.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, just to give people perspective, we want to make sure they've got realistic expectations and stuff. Let's talk for a second about actually getting wholesale accounts. There's a lot of people who are like, you know what, people don't like Amazon sellers to sell their wholesale stuff. Brands think that Amazon sellers are horrible or whatever. What do you do with what you learned from the wholesale formula about actually getting profitable wholesale accounts, especially when they might say, "Yo, we don't like Amazon sellers, so no."
Yeah. I mean, so honestly, if they say yes, there's two things here. One, if you can make money on that account, that's awesome. Congratulations, those exist. Uh, but if they say no, that's your best account. And that's what I tell people is if they say no, then that's important because that means that they are a problem aware prospect at a minimum. Okay, and so now the opportunity that you have is to figure out why they're saying no. And we don't sell to Amazon sellers is not an objection.
Mm-hmm.
We don't sell to Amazon sellers as an excuse, and you have to find out the objection behind it. Like what happened? Why don't you sell to Amazon sellers? What has your experience been like? Why have you made this decision for your business? And how is it working for you? And so you have to dive in with those brand owners, and you have to really kind of understand their pain points, understand what's going on with them, understand what their journey is, and then you need to position yourself as a trusted advisor, and basically speak to those pain points and then, coach them through what to expect next and then provide basically a ton of value. And almost all of my accounts, all of my brand management accounts, my wholesale accounts, the ones that I really value, the ones that, are still with me today, and I still have most of my early accounts to this day, they've come about because of a relationship. And that's, if I had to really summarize the value of the wholesale formula, it's really to teach you how to create a valuable relationship, because at the end of the day you have to be more than a purchase order
Mm-hmm.
to a brand owner. If all you are is a purchase order, they can go find more purchase orders. They could just cut you out.
Yeah.
And so by providing value, that's your business. Now you're in business because you have a relationship and you have value.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about the wholesale formula. They teach you how to, better serve the brands that are out there because everyone else is just contacting them saying, hey, I want to sell your stuff on Amazon, or hey, I want to sell your stuff. Give me a list of your products. Period. And that's it. It's like, there's nothing for the brand to get anything out of that. And so, of course, with any type of relationship, there's got to be give and take. There's got to be both ends offering up something. And so that's what I love about the wholesale formula that helps you with that. So when it actually comes time to like, okay, you found a profitable item on Amazon, you want to reach out to the brand, do you give them a call? Do you email them? What is your process that you like to do? Because I know a lot of people, some people like don't feel comfortable on the phone and they rather email. What's your strategy?
Yeah, so I've kind of made a name for myself as the email guy.
Yeah.
And that's for a couple reasons. One, I was working like 65 hours a week, no joke. And there was no way I had time to make phone calls. And so I needed something that was going to work when I was working.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When I was working my day job, I needed it to work for me.
So the 65 hours was another job that you had at the time.
Yeah, I was the executive chef of a university, and so like I was just a slave there, and owed them my blood and my life and my livelihood, and I hated that, but I needed basically something to work for me. And the other thing too is at the time, and now I've grown as a person, as a business owner since then, but at the time I was truly terrified of the prospect of getting on the phone with a brand owner and trying to convince them to take my money, which is kind of a weird thing to say, that you have to talk somebody else into taking your money, but that's what you have to do. So my outreach strategy is email. And so basically we send out emails and we try to knock off the low-hanging fruit right away, and then what we want to do is get that brand owner to get on a phone call, like a scheduled phone call, like, hey, let's put this on the schedule. And so at the time that meant, I had like a 30-minute lunch break, and since I was the boss, I could sneak out every now and then and do whatever I wanted to without anybody making sure I was punched in. And so I was able to sneak out and make phone calls here and there throughout the day. But since they were on my calendar, it was much easier to manage. And so that was the plan then, and that's how I still operate my business. So the brand owners get a cold email, and that cold email is designed essentially to get them on the phone, and then from there we take it. So,
yeah, that's cool. What kind of information do you put in that email trying to get a phone appointment eventually that helps you get that?
Well, so there's two approaches that we take, and in my email funnel in particular, we branch it. A brand owner could potentially get 3 different kinds of emails from me, and the variables essentially are whether or not we feel very strongly that we're talking to a decision maker or not. If we don't feel very strongly like we're talking to a decision maker, then we send out a short 1-sentence email, and it just says, hey, I want to open up a wholesale account. Tell me how to do that, right? And the goal of that is to get them to raise their objections to us without presenting any objectionable content to them. So like if you make the mistake, and this is a rookie mistake, of saying, hey, we sell on Amazon and we're awesome and you should give us a wholesale account and here's why, then they're just going to delete your email. If you say, hey, I'd like to open up a wholesale account without providing any objectionable material in that email, then what you're doing is you're luring them in essentially, right? And what does your email say? It says, I have money and I want to give it to you. And what they think is, okay, as long as they're not an Amazon seller, I'll probably accept this offer. And so they'll respond to you. But the psychology there is they're going to respond to you and start a dialogue. And once they find out that you are an Amazon seller, then they're going to have objections, but they're not going to delete your email because now they're engaged in a dialogue, and that's just rude. And so that gives you the opportunity now to work on that relationship and work on serving them and providing value. So I actually call that the iceberg email, and that's just a super simple one sentence email. But then the other type of email that we send out is more of a direct response copywriting style email. And copywriting is one of the skills that I've sharpened and honed over the years. And so that goes to somebody who we're certain is a decision maker. And that's really meant to kind of break down their objections. We come at them full speed. It's high friction. We do not pull any punches. We do not hold back. We say right from the get-go that we're an Amazon seller. In versions of my email, I've said, hey, by the bottom of this email, you're going to want to talk to me about your Amazon presence. It's like full throttle direct response copywriting. And so that one gets deleted a lot. And then the ones that do not delete it want to speak to me on the phone right away and talk about opening up an account. And so that's the goal. That's what we want it to do. It's meant to like really dial directly in on our target market and get them on the phone with us. So that's our generally broad and painting with a broad brush. Those are our two approaches to email.
That's cool. I like that. A moment ago, you said something about, you still have wholesale accounts with brands that you first got started years ago. What do you think is the key to having a long-term successful relationship with a brand?
Yeah, so everybody, and no matter who you are, and I'm sure there's going to be somebody who disagrees with me, but I feel very strongly that most humans want and I'm going to use the word guy, but guy, and I'll put it in quotation marks, but like a go-to person, like that they can recommend to other people, that they can trust, that who's their advisor. Like I was just talking about this with my wife the other day, and she said, we were talking about our local HVAC guy, like our local HVAC and plumbing guy, because one of our friends, their like water heater exploded, right? And I said, oh, well, have him call Herb. And she said, Herb retired. I'm like, what? What are we going to do now? I haven't called this guy to do anything for me in like 2 years, but he was my guy.
Right.
Like I had that solved. I had plumbing guy solved. I could trust him. I knew what he was doing. Anything he told me to buy, I would just buy, like just sign the check. Everybody wants that thing solved in whatever category of their life it is, whether it's something like a utility, like electrical, or your accountant, or your and bookkeeper, or your marketing person. You want that trusted advisor in your life. And so people want an Amazon guy or girl. They want that person that they trust in their life, who they could just pick up the phone and know that whatever comes out of that conversation is going to be the best thing for them. And so the relationships that I have with my brand owners are based on that. And I get a phone call. Sometimes I'm on the phone with them for an hour, and every time they call, and they just want to know, like, hey, let's talk through some strategy. Let's talk about what's going on, what we see. And, in these relationships, I've built off Amazon websites for them because it's the thing that they needed in their business. In the case of a couple of them, we've had to work on their product packaging because it wasn't surviving Amazon, which, if you've ever sent anything to Amazon and then ordered your own product, you might have been shocked to discover right. how it arrived to you. So we had to work on specific Amazon packaging. And so, so that's the secret sauce right there, is to be that Amazon consultant, that Amazon advisor.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about the wholesale formula, is that it breaks down every single type of value proposition that you can offer, and then you can learn how to do all of those things. Pick one, become confident in it, and then add another one, and then you can, as you continue to take the wholesale formula, you can go through it the first time, from start to finish, and learn a lot. But then you can go back to some of the previous sessions and really hone your skills of different types of value propositions, and add more and more ways that you can better serve your brand, and it just makes you better. And then, if you become, I've got a great Amazon guy that, then you could even have wholesale companies come knocking on your door to help them. And that's really awesome. I love how the wholesale formula helps with that.
Well, and I just want to comment quickly too, because another cool thing about it, and a lot of new students to the wholesale formula have this trepidation, like, I have nothing of value to offer, or, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And honestly, you don't need to know how to do some of this stuff. And I know that's like a little crazy, like, oh, you're telling me to go lie to people and make promises I can't keep. And I'm not saying that at all. But consider for a minute that one of the value propositions is I can improve your listings so that they're keyword optimized, right? If you're listening to this and you have no idea what that means, I promise you don't need to, because you can go out in the world and you could find hundreds of people that are experts at doing that, and you could just hire them to do that for you. Okay. And so now that's a service that you can offer, because you could just pay somebody else to do it. There's also another value proposition, and another solution is pay-per-click advertising. Now, if you want to go deep and become a master of pay-per-click advertising, there are courses that could teach you how to do that. But if you want to just advertise products and do it profitably, there's software that you could do it in 3 clicks without having to be a genius at it. And so, those are just 2 of the ways that you could be valuable without having to become an expert at that thing first. And there are many other ways that we could talk about, including the value that you as a human being offer and your experience and your lifetime. If you're coming out of the corporate world, what was your corporate world like? I've coached TWA students who are chiropractors. And so now that's a skill that they could take. They can reach out to companies in that space that manufacture products around that. And now that's a value that they could provide to those brand owners. So you don't feel like you have to learn those skills. Don't feel like, if you're coming into this, you're not going to have any value. You can absolutely provide value. There's a million ways to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will, because, thinking that you have to learn everything, you don't have to. There's a lot of ways to outsource that. That's another thing I love about the wholesale business model is all the ways that you can outsource. What are some other ways that you've been able to outsource when it comes to buying wholesale stuff to sell on Amazon?
I've outsourced my whole business, to be perfectly honest.
That's the ultimate goal. That's the dream.
Yeah. My team of virtual assistants who are still with me today, my very first hire is still with me today, and we outsource literally everything. And it always starts with finding prospects. The number one goal, and this is a lesson that Dylan likes to preach quite a bit, is your only job in this business is to get more wholesale accounts, right? And so in the early days of your business, that's the only job of your virtual assistant, which is get more wholesale accounts. So consider for a minute if you could have another human being, whether you are working full time or you have your own business or whatever it might be, but have another human being spending 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, just going out in the world and trying to find wholesale accounts for you. Imagine how rewarding that is, that now your business is really on autopilot, and that could happen very quickly for you, by the way. This is not like a late stage kind of thing. This is a very early stage kind of thing, like week 4 or 5, start thinking about hiring somebody to do this for you. And then from there, you can really outsource all kinds of things. I run my whole business with basically 2 virtual assistants, which sounds kind of crazy. But what happens is that you start to, as your business grows, or at least what I found is organically, you start to meet some real thresholds. Like I run out of money, you know what I mean? Like you don't have any more capital put in your business. And so you work on your business and making it better and serving your brands better. And so now, like my virtual assistants, they create flat files and do catalog management and do listing optimizations. They do refunds and reimbursements. They do customer service. They set up my software. They run my software. They run reports for brand owners. Like they do. I mean, I literally don't do anything in my business anymore. I don't even tell them what to do in my business anymore. They tell me what to do. And we actually have a standard operating procedure for creating standard operating procedures. It's like Inception. We've reached the singularity here with virtual assistants. It's like my favorite thing. So my whole business is automated right now.
That is awesome. And yeah, that is definitely something that is possible with doing wholesale. And I know the Wholesale formula has one of their bonuses, their VA Launchpad, which helps you learn how to outsource to virtual assistants. And that's been something that's been a really awesome resource that you have available. You said you took the Wholesale formula about 5 years ago. I know the Wholesale formula continually updates, and that's another awesome thing about it, because as they learn new value propositions, they add that to the course. What has the way that they continually update the course, and whoever purchased it in the past gets free updates for life, what's that been and meant to you?
Well, so it's been pretty cool, honestly. And, for at least, there's been at least a few moments where I was slightly envious because these guys just seem to be like always one step ahead. Part of being in the Wholesale formula, at least at this point in time, is that you get a free ticket to the Wholesale formula live. And so that's a live event, which is a 3-day awesome action-packed seminar where they just teach the latest and greatest and newest stuff. And so it seems like every time you listen to Dan and Dylan, they've got something new, some cool new strategy, some new idea, some new way that they're providing value. And it's just been awesome. And I remember when each of these things, like these aha moments for me came from them. One of them was this RPS system. It's basically a systematized method for approaching a call to brand owner. In order to, it's really scripted, honestly, where they're talking about like, okay, first say this and then go through these kinds of things and then move into this phase. And this is what you should be looking for, and it's a system for making phone calls that are valuable to everybody involved. So that was a game changer for me. And I used that on my calls. And then another cool thing was this idea of creating these brand health reports, which I thought was really awesome. And this is where that envy comes in, because I had already been secretly experimenting with this kind of thing. Like how can I just provide so much more value? And then I went to the Wholesale Formula Live, and they were like, here's this completely polished and done for you system. I was like, man, you're like blowing up my spot here. Like I thought I was going to, but it's a super awesome and super valuable thing. And so these kinds of things, like they're plugged into this business. They're sharing with you live in real time the things that they're doing that is being successful for them. And so that's a really awesome part of the Wholesale Formula.
Yeah. Well, the thing you were just talking about, was that the one where the aspect of like, you create something that you send to your brand saying, these are the things that I've been doing for you, so that they stay in the loop. Is that what you were talking about?
Well, so there's a kind of two approaches to it. The one that you're talking about is like a monthly brand health report. And that's something that I absolutely advocate for, where you basically, and I always say, like, you're sending them an invoice anyway. So when you're sending them an invoice, also send along hey, here's what we've done for you. This is how we've been valuable. And that's part of we do that for all of our brands that are in an exclusive relationship to us, but we also use it to coach brands into becoming exclusive with us, because like, especially when they're not there yet, they're not in their own brains, they're operating as a wholesaler, they're like, what do you mean only sell to you? Like, why would I do that? And you could kind of like coach them into that by doing those brand health reports. But the other cool way to use it is to, like, as an opening salvo, like when you reach out to, we only do this when we know we're talking to the decision maker, but we'll send a brand health report, which is like the state of your brand on Amazon right now. And here's how your competitors are crushing you. And here's opportunities that you're missing. And, essentially, like, this is why you need to sit up, pay attention, and have somebody be a partner with you in tackling these things. And so that's another cool way to use that health report.
That is cool. Thanks for explaining that and everything. Last thing I want to talk about, the Wholesale Formula is a large investment for some people. They might see the price tag and be like, man, I don't know about spending that much money on a course. Help people to understand just how valuable it is, and how actually right now it's probably underpriced, and they probably should raise the price sometime soon. And I'm not just saying that as a marketing tactic or whatever to cause people to go buy it or whatever, but I honestly think that it is far worth more in the value that you learn if you actually take action on what you learn than what it's currently priced at.
Yeah, so first of all, I completely understand. This was a conversation when the Wholesale Formula came out and I was considering buying it. Like, this was a conversation I sat down at the table across from my wife, and like we talked about what this meant. Like, we didn't have a whole lot of money for this to be bad, for this to turn out bad. And keep in mind that about a year before that, I had spent about the same amount of money on a big name marketer on how to like launch your own course, right? And that did not go well for me. And so the look on my wife's face, you can imagine what that was as I was telling her that I was now considering this investment. And I will say that there are a couple things. First of all, if you were like me and you've tried this before, I encourage you to forgive yourself for any failures. And I want you to know that this is different, and it's different this time because you have a whole entire community. The community, to me, is worth the price of admission. Every question that you could possibly ever have about the Wholesale Formula, about approaching brand owners, all of that, it's been answered in that community, and you can feel free to just go ahead and ask it again. That community is there. The Wholesale Formula also has a ton of coaches, right? And so those coaches are always active in that group, including myself. I'm always in there answering questions, helping people. And so the community is actually an enormous benefit. So there's that. And you should feel supported by that. You should feel supported by not only the course, but the community. The other thing too is that, and the thing that actually made me decide that like this was worth it, right? Or not even that it was worth it, but just like to do it, to jump in with both feet, was that you have a 30-day guarantee on it. Like it's like a no questions asked guarantee. So get in and learn what it's about. So that was really comforting to me. And then the third thing that's super important, and what I have come to understand is absolutely the difference between this and every other business model, is that one of the hardest things about a business is driving traffic, right? And that's where I failed and fell on my face when it came to creating a course, is that I did not know how to drive traffic. I didn't know how to find my prospects. I didn't know how to get them to buy. I didn't know how to drive traffic. Amazon is basically the traffic is solved when it comes to Amazon. They are driving traffic, right? So you are not, it's not like you're going to like get into an unknown situation where you're like, I don't know if this product is going to sell. The wholesale formula shows you how to make sure that it sells, because you know that it sells before you ever spend a dime on a product, right?
Yes.
So that's number one. And number two, the wholesale formula solves the hardest part about this business model, which is Amazon itself, right? That's all solved for you. So traffic is solved, Amazon is solved. And so to me, it made so much sense. And that has actually borne fruit for me. And like I said, I actually paid off the investment in 3 months, because I was able to, get some early wins, get a few wholesale accounts, and, get that to pay off. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. When you were talking about the community, you were talking about the Wholesale Formula alumni Facebook group that continues to grow every year, filled with people who are in your same shoes. Someone who wants to add wholesale to their business, people who have successfully added wholesale to their business that are still in the group helping others, people taking their business to the next level. It's like all steps. And all people are welcome. All questions are welcome. And it's just an amazing group. I mean, that group alone is probably worth the price of the course. And so it's more than just a course. It's that community aspect as well that is just an absolute game changer. Well, Ian, I appreciate the time that you've taken out to answer some of these questions and talk about this. And, I know the Wholesale Formula just recently updated again. They've got their latest version that they just released a few months ago. And so, we're going through that again. We're looking for more ways to just continually improve on the amazing results that we've experienced. And I just appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me. You got any final words for everybody before we say goodbye?
So one of the things that I would say, and just some like parting advice, is that I joined the Wholesale Formula 5 years ago. And the course at that time was leaner, it was meaner, it was a little more rough around the edges than it is now. And one of the cool things about it is, and I mentioned this before, it's evolved over time. And I've talked about how it evolves over time to meet the current landscape of Amazon. But one of the really neat things is that these guys evolved the course to meet the needs of their students. And they pay close attention to, okay, where is there a breakdown in communication? Where do people get stuck? How can we get through that? How can we help them be more successful? And so in this recent version of the course update, which you'll get right away when you sign up, one of the cool things that they did was that they actually really shortened up the lessons and made more of them. So you can, like if you ever gone through a course or a program or something like that, and there was one like golden nugget in the middle of an hour and a half long lesson, like you're like, well, how do I find that again? Well, now that's super easy. So that's broken down for you. And then the other cool thing is that with this iteration of the course this year, when it opens up, there's actually including coaching with the price. So you'll actually have access to a coach who can help you out, make sure that you're tuned in, make sure that you're on track and can answer questions for you. So you are starting this out with more advantages than I ever had when I started this, and which is really cool because I want to see you be successful, and I know that Dan and Dylan want to see you successful, and I know Stephen wants to see you be successful. Like it really is a very altruistic, group of people that are really just invested in seeing you be successful. So, there's the popular saying, which I'm sorry if you've heard it a million times, but the best time to join the Wholesale Formula was last year, and the next best time to join the Wholesale Formula is this year. It's don't wait on your dreams. So,
yeah, definitely. I think it's awesome that the guys from the Wholesale Formula are adding coaching this year. This is a new thing that's been added to the Wholesale Formula. They're adding coaching, but they're not increasing the price, and so it's still an amazing value to be able to get that, and then I totally assume they're going to raise the price next year. There's no announcement about that or anything like that, but there's no promise the price will remain the same. So if you're interested in learning more about the wholesale formula, you go to my link, fulltimefba.com/wholesale formula. I include a bonus that's worth over $2,000 if you purchase through that link, fulltimefba.com/wholesale formula. And if you're listening to this when this drops on Monday, the wholesale course is closing Thursday at midnight Pacific. The course will close for the entire year, will not be opened up to the public again for 2021. So you want to be able to take advantage of that. If you're listening and you're like, oh man, I missed out, that same link will forward you to a wait list. If you go to fulltimefba.com/wholesale formula and it's closed, that will send you to a wait list where I will notify you the moment the course opens up again, and you can take action on that. Well, Ian, thanks again for hanging out with me. Thanks again for talking. I want to do another podcast episode with you sometime in the future, so I'll contact you and we'll set that up. But I look forward to talking with you again.
All right, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.